Hey, aloha mai kako. My name is Bryan Tolentino. I'm a Oahu-based musician, an ukulele player. We're here at Ukulele Friend with our friends. I want to introduce you to Aaron Keim, Pacific Northwest luthier, musician. He's here on grant to study the early ukulele of Hawaii and their building techniques and just being able to hand touch, smell, and play some of these instruments. Yeah, so Aaron Keim.
Yeah, some of the old ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been building musical instruments for about 15 years, and I'm a musician and went to school to study music history. So all those things are kind of coming together as we study these old instruments. And when folks say, "Oh yeah, I've got an old ukulele I want you to look at," and then it turns out to be from the 70s, like, that's pretty cool. But we're here with Sean at Ukulele Friend, and so we have the real ones from, this one's from about 1890. And so this is at this time when these Madeiran immigrants are here making their what used to be their traditional instruments, but now they're becoming Hawaii's traditional instrument, right? And this one's 1890, around 1890, and so it's made of koa wood, right? All Hawaiian koa wood.
Yeah.
Not just because it's beautiful, but that's probably an act of patriotism in its own way to be making this artistic thing from this native wood.
So who made this one? I know there were three that were credited with developing.
This one's Santo, right? Yeah. So
Jose Do Espirito Santo.
yeah, and this one has been. People talk about it because it's got like a headstock that looks like a banjo.
Yeah, I noticed that.
It's kind of cool.
It's
looking,
different.
huh? Yeah, not traditional to the islands, and he probably saw banjos. Santo probably saw some banjos and thought it would be cool to copy. And it's really fun. One of the things I want to look at and think about with these things is what tools did they hold in their hands, And this in here in the studio with these nice lights, we can see the marks from the file he used to file this shape.
That's crazy.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, and it seems to be a unique happy-faced bridge.
Yeah, what is that about? Yeah. Is that a mustache or a smile? I don't know.
Yeah.
Well,
No, it's a shaka.
Oh, is that what it is? Yeah. Well, Sean was showing us some of the instruments from Madeira, like the machete, have like a square-shaped bridge, and then they have other artistic things that come out the sides, whether they're flowers or oak leaves or something. And that's like definitely a European thing from the So I think he's kind of playing on that. It seems to be related to that, but extra curvy and interesting. And one of the things we're excited about too is, it's got this strip down the middle.
All different woods, yeah.
All different woods, yeah. And it looks like they're kind of like you raided the scrap bin or something, right?
That's all they had, right?
Yeah.
Basically.
Scraps are good, yeah.
Can you tell what woods though? I mean, just
some of them look like koa, and some of them look like lighter colored like maple, and there's some with grain that looks like lacewood or sycamore. There's these dark red ones where that could be something from Asia or something, bloodwood. I don't know, but it's kind of hard to say without a DNA test what each kind of wood is.
See, when growing up in Hawaii, I thought that ukuleles that didn't have a fingerboard preceded ukuleles that had fingerboards.
Oh yeah.
Just because it's like it's the crude way of making it.
Yeah.
You didn't have. But my understanding now is the original ones had fingerboards, but because of economics and it's just easier to make.
Yeah.
That's when they took off the fingerboards.
Yeah, so in Madeira, the instruments had a fingerboard.
Right.
And then those early ones made in Hawaii do.
They had
and it kind of goes away. Yeah, and it becomes part of the tradition here to just cut your frets right into the neck or to have it flush with the top like this. Yeah.
Wow.
Probably, and then eventually, builders got back to putting the fretboard back on. Makes for easier playability and better action.
And I learned something today that there were cabinet makers, furniture makers that made ukulele, but I thought the rope binding was painstakingly made for like every ukulele, the artistry of it. But Aaron is telling me, oh no, you probably could get it in a catalog because it was used for furniture.
Yeah.
And they bent it, and that's how they made it a little bit more ornate and stuff.
Well, in woodworking trades, it's kind of like musicians where everybody could do everything, but
right.
You kind of specialize, So in these three guys that came from Madeira were called cabinet makers. And cabinet makers meant something in the hierarchy of woodworkers, okay? So they had a certain skill set and knew what to do. That's different than a carpenter or a joiner. A joiner would have been the next step up, and then cabinet maker meant they could do fancy inlays and things. But when it comes to this work too, there were production houses all over the world that would make banding strips or inlay strips, and so you could make your own. They had the skill to do that, but also you could order from the catalog.
Much easier and probably cheaper. And
well, and here in Hawaii, they had to order nails. glue, hinges, shellac, strings,
Everything.
frets. So they were ordering stuff in from San Francisco, New York, Hawaii, or sorry, Los Angeles. So you have to wonder if at the woodworking supply warehouse where they got the other things, this might have been just some of the things that are there for decoration.
Yeah.
Commonly seen inlaid into like tabletops or boxes or a lady's jewelry case.
Makes
Or
sense.
something,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
a little decorative strip. Now we have seen on Sean's instruments that some of them are handmade and very like scrap wood-y, but and they're all kind of different. But there's enough of them that look exactly the same that some some percentage of it must have been just a pre-bought strip.
Oh,
you know?
interesting.
But what blew our mind today too, Sean showed us a machete from Madeira that also had it.
Mm.
Okay, so it's not just here in Hawaii then, right?
Right.
They had it there too. So, and they were cabinet makers. So when they first came over here, they had to do their jobs 2 years in the fields as agricultural laborers. They were immigrants. After they did that, they got jobs in other people's shops working on furniture and cabinets, and then the luthiery started to sprinkle in as they went until they could, just make instruments eventually. So they had the skills to do all that stuff. It may be folk art, but it's not unskillful.
Right. But all about economics. Like got to put food on the table. So whatever's going to be the most efficient way to build, and
this one's pretty fancy. It's pretty fancy for his output. We saw some ones that are plainer and some ones that are even more fancy. But this is pretty up there. This would have been for a customer who had some cash, don't you think?
Yeah. Were you surprised when you first heard these vintage ukulele? Because these are museum pieces.
Yeah.
Was that the sound that you were expecting, or
to me the surprise wasn't in the sound. To me the surprise was in the touch that it took to get the sound. Right? And I think you can speak to that too, because you've had your hands on the strings a few times. But like, to get the biggest, brightest sound, the best sound, you can't hit it too hard, right?
Right.
You have to really be careful.
There's finesse that has to go into making it sound.
It's like you can't, if you tried to play it too hard, it wouldn't sing. So, they have their own little sweet charm,
it's living again, these instruments, which is amazing. Sean knows this. Whenever I grab one of these, I just stick my nose in it. Because you want to smell all of that, the DNA or the mana. And because someone in 1890 made this instrument, and it's living through us now, through the videos, the documentation, and the sound. And it's still serving its purpose. Yeah. Which is crazy. Now, 1890-ish, that's like overthrow. So, were these ukuleles played during protest time? What songs were played? Yeah. Who played these? And it's just amazing and we mahalo Sean for allowing us to see and play these museum pieces. Okay, since you've been here and your first trip.
Yep.
What are some of the rumors that were dispelled when you saw some of these pieces, or like, oh, I didn't know that, or was it always like, I thought that's how it was going to be, or?
I think a lot of folks think like, oh, those old-fashioned soprano ukuleles, like, oh yeah, that's just for kids, or like that's just a little toy or something, right? But like these little ones fit the audio, a part of the sound spectrum that was necessary for a working band, right? So now we want to build a musical instrument that does everything. An ukulele needs to do all the stuff, the leads, the rhythm, all the things. And this, it's like this fits the mix. It's the engine of the string band, right? Once it gets going, and these sopranos, they're just perfectly suited for that. So now we think, oh well, now we build all these different ways because we want it to be better. But like for fitting that part of the mix, this is it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like this is it does the part, And
first 3 frets.
Well, there's a lot of money right here.
Yeah.
And not so much up there. Like it's. So I mean, for me, I think that's a key thing for any ukulele person.
It wasn't built to be I don't want to say virtuosic instrument, but it was just made to accompany vocals, play in the band if someone's singing, and it fit the bill.
Yeah,
man. And just to have these musical instruments breathe is just, mind-boggling. The first time I ever came to Sean's shop and I'm playing, sniffing, like I started tearing because just think of all the history from that. It's like this is from the late 1800s, and maybe King David Kalakaua played that. Maybe he was hanging out at the shop with Manny them and talking chicks and drinking some beers and guys hanging out, but it's still here. It's still breathing and living, and that's amazing.
Well, and that speaks to actually what an ukulele is for. It's not just made to fit the mix. It's made to draw people in.
Yeah.
To build community, right? It's to once somebody's getting the right beat going with the right song.
Yeah.
They don't go running away. They come towards, right?
It's an happy instrument. It has to be, There are some ukulele players that play with angst.
Yeah, that's okay.
And that's okay, but it's just a happy, fun, loving instrument, and just to play songs on that instrument, and that was Santo, was it? I'm sorry.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah. So wood pigs, friction tuners.
Sure. State of the art. Gut strings, little bridge pins right here, and this is in a kind of transitionary period from the European style to the fully Hawaiian style. So the bridge pins kind of go away. Right, like eventually people would rather just put a little little slot to put the string in. It's just kind of easier and cheaper to make. And eventually this little headstock didn't really catch on. Right, it kind of changes over time to something more normal to us now. But this size is eventually it gets a little deeper.
Yes. Right.
So once they go to factory made instruments, they add maybe a half inch to this. But I mean, this is pretty much it from 1890 to 1930. This is it. This is the job. This is the soprano. This is it.
And it put Hawaiian music on the map.
Yeah.
From here, it spread all over the world. Like the Hawaiian steel guitar, like Kiho'alu. It's.
Yeah. Well, this one, because of the way this box is made, might have gone around the world too.
Yeah.
We think. We don't know, but we're looking at it.
I call it the coffin.
The coffin. It looks like a coffin, but here.
We've seen some. There's the top, and there are hinges, right?
Like a proper instrument case, you have a little hinge, and it opens and closes. And so Sean was showing us like, oh, well, isn't it weird that this case had a handle on the top? What's that about?
Yeah.
But here, let's put it in real quick, and then I noticed that not only was the handle on the top, but look at these holes. They're little nail holes everywhere, right? So I think this was nailed on here.
Yeah.
And then I think these 4 nails held a shipping label or a card of some sort.
Crazy, yeah.
And then I think this had a little handle. And I think this got nailed up and it got mailed somewhere or took somewhere on a boat or to another island or shipped to a customer somewhere. So we've been calling this a case. I'm not sure it's a case. I think it's a shipping crate. In its own way.
Man.
And when I look at this from the 1880s or 90s, it exhibits all the signs of handmade pre-industrial furniture making. First of all, the wood is Sitka spruce. And I will, even though we're in Hawaii, this is a spruce tree from Canada or Alaska, and I'll fight somebody. This is Sitka. And that's what all shipping crates were made out of back then. So the reason there's all these spruce tops and all these old ukuleles is because this is how you ship them. So the nails here are tapped through and then bent over. That's called clinching a nail. Okay, and then when I look at it in the raking light, I see circular saw marks from the sawmill, and I see hand plane marks, rough planing of this. It's not a smooth planing; it's rough, and you can see these streaks. That's where he had a nick in his plane iron, a little chip.
Oh, yeah.
And so every pass he leaves a little streak. Right. So if this was a musical instrument, this would have been scraped and shellacked. But it wasn't ever going to be a musical instrument. It's just left rough, right? And then the outside is painted with paint, and it looks today what we call milk paint, which is like a kind of, back then it would have been like an oil-based pigment paint. And nailed together, spruce box, painted, and nailed good enough to ship it somewhere.
Man, that's so cool. So there's history in the case.
We learn a lot from the case. Like
there's stories about just the case. I just thought it was a box. I thought it was a coffin.
When I look inside it too, it's like I see all his tool marks, right? Like because the tool marks are taken out of the finished surfaces, but it's really easy to see how it was made and who made it. And other ones, these got these other more fancy cases where the joints are complicated joints at the corners. And here it's just a block of wood that's planed at an angle and a block of wood planed at an angle, and it's just nailed together. Just, it's
Man,
so-
crazy. So, this box was obviously made after this ukulele to ship.
I imagine, yeah.
Yeah.
And it fits that instrument.
That's
We'd
all
have to. We'd have to. It would be now. Of course, what we'd want to do is if we could talk to the last person who owned it. You know, they said this box came with it. I mean, presumably it's hard to know without documents or something, but presumably it's. Yeah.
I told Aaron, hey, make me a case, but I want 6 handles on each side so you can carry it.
So your 6 friends can carry it for you. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, cool.
Yeah, I think I might make a case like this, except put hinges on it.
Oh, I was just gonna say,
Yeah.
put the hinges. But it would be cool if you had one handle like that on top
Yeah.
too, because you lock it and you could still carry it this way or carry it this way.
Yeah, and I'm wondering what this card was, because you can see that outline right there, right? But where those 4 nails
Yeah,
are, there's
just
some
put-
sort of card was there.
It's the Aaron Keim luthier, bean
Yeah.
sprout.
Yeah. Well, no, I'll put whoever buys it. That's who I'll put their name
Oh,
there.
that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. Yeah, so you're enjoying Hawaii, first trip,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, we're having a great time. I think it's been we've been enjoying all the normal tourist stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and we've also been visiting all our friends and colleagues, and getting to just go to the museum and the archives and come here to Ukulele Friend and see more old pieces. It's been great, and I'm glad we're doing it now. I think if I would have been here when I was 25 or so, I wouldn't have.
You'd still be here.
I'd still be maybe. Well, I didn't think that what we had to say or what we thought mattered to people. You know,
It does. I mean,
I wouldn't have thought that though. Like I thought, oh
Right.
well, they've got their own thing and they've got it figured out. But like it's been cool to talk to people where our perspective is valued. Because
Of course.
I don't think we were sure it would be. And I'm just thankful we get to be here looking at all this cool stuff.
And it's like we talk about, it's ukulele community.
Yeah.
We're all here to share. We're all here to enjoy. When all else fails, when you're in Hawaii, just go to the beach.
Yeah,
that cures
works.
all, man.
Yep.
Sometimes that's what we do. We just say, you know what, I gotta go jump in the ocean to
Yep.
feel better, and it just is au kai in Hawaiian. Go to the ocean and cleanse, and there's something to be said about that,
And
man.
start over and try it again the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I get it.